Yo, what up? Here we are again on another Sunday. Hopeful Resistance podcast. Just me here to talk about rhetoric. You know, this week's been pretty crazy. Especially today. I know there was a church burning today. I know there was some other crazy happenings this week. Trump's talking about sending troops out to Portland. You know, it's all a lot. It's a lot, and I'm sure that everybody out there is probably feeling a little bit of dread, a little bit of concern. I would advise that if you are having those feelings, that they're justified and understandable, and you know, it's just kind of the bleak reality of what we're growing up in, or so what we're growing up in, you know, what we're dealing with right now. So my advice, as always, is, you know, there's tons and tons and tons of ways that you can get involved, and we talk about them every week here on the show. And I would just say, yeah, you know, work on taking breaks when you need to, reaching out, getting involved in your community, stuff like that. It's all going to be helpful. You know, there's going to be, because the show has shifted from where it started to where it is now. I think there's probably just some things that I want to talk about before we get into the topic today. You know, for a long time, and I think whenever we initially started, the whole goal of the show was to, like, you know, maintain this hopeful sense. And I still want to try and do that by giving everyone that watches or tunes in or hops into my other streams or anything else, kind of like action items, things that you can do to get involved. I don't want anybody to ever feel like, because there's going to be probably some kind of tonal shift, right? Because I tend to be a little more aggressive. I tend to be a little more rowdy. I don't want people to be worried or concerned that there's going to be a turnaround on the idea of, like, keeping everybody more positive and hopeful in ways that you can, you know, kind of push back non-violently against the you know, against what's going on. So something to keep in mind, you know, for sure. And let me make sure. Done. I guess there we go. So where's sorry, I'm just realizing that, like, my stream was being a little wonky. Anyway, all in all, I just the biggest thing is, I'm not gonna sit here and debate with chat. If you want to come in and you want to give your 2 cents, you want to talk to me, or you've got you know, things to add that are a part of the topic we're talking about, then I wholly encourage you and would love to hear your input. But if you're going to come in here and your entire purpose is just to disrupt what we're talking about, you can just promptly go fuck yourself. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. Last week we had somebody come in and trying to basically pull some whataboutism because we were talking about how the FCC had pushed Jimmy Kimmel off, and then it was the whataboutism of, well, how do you feel about the fact that the FBI, you know, withheld information on Biden? But then whenever you went and read the House, you know, Oversight Committee's report, that's not what fucking happened. But people nowadays are, like, living in 2 different realities. You're either living in the reality where the facts are the facts, whether you like them or not, then we can have a conversation about, and truthfully, we would probably find that we agree on things. But if you're going to come in here with conspiratorial, disproven, misinformation, disinformation nonsense, I'm going to show you the door. I'm just going to start banning people outright for it, because that's not what we want to do. I'm not here to propagate misinf or disinformation. I'm here to talk about my feelings on things, and I think, admittedly, I've probably been holding back some of that because I don't want to be confrontational. But I think that just some input that I've gotten from, like, people that watch the show and people that I, you know, take criticism from, and so thus I take advice from, have said to me, like, you should let your feelings show a little more. And so I think that's, like, just going forward, that's I want everybody to be on the same page. That's what things are going to start being like around here. Anyways, that being said, this week I wanted to talk about one big thing. So sometime back, Mom wrote this really great thing that was, like, basically, like, the 9 patterns of behavior that MAGA loves to get into, and she put together this really, really, really comprehensive guide that she called the MAGA discourse guide. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about I want to do some rhetoric comparison, because I'm really sick and fucking tired of there being like this idea that left wing, like left wing, like online people, like influencers and commentators and pundits are like online, and they're talking about, you know, what they're talking about, the temperature, they're talking about the political violence, talking about whatever's going on, and they're being and going on shows and going on podcasts and being held to account for where we are at currently in U.S. politics, while simultaneously no one's holding the president accountable, no one's holding the the Secretary of State accountable, no one's talking about what it is that the administration itself is saying and doing and talking about. And if you're not on social media, it's totally fine. Social media is a pretty toxic place. It takes a certain mindset to approach it, especially if you're looking at it from a political perspective. So I get it. But if you go and look at what these people are saying on social media, because the online sphere, okay, while it's not the real world, it does at least express and demonstrate the world in which the administration is operating in and speaking to. So if you're not paying attention to it, I want to dive into it just a little bit, and then, but mostly I want to talk about the 9 patterns of behavior in this MAGA civil discourse guide. So let's walk down this, okay? These are some notes that mom came out with me. For those that aren't familiar, mom is a former behaviorist. She's retired now, and like me, she continues to be pretty. I guess mom's just fascinated. I say flabbergasted by the predictable patterns of behavior that they exhibit. And one of the things that we talk about a lot on the show, and have talked about, and will continue to talk about, is this lizard brain ideology that they fall pretty victim to on the reg. So let's talk about, let's get into what mom wrote here. So preemptive hostility or derision. Okay. MAGA people love to enter every conversation with insults, derisive comments, Fox News talking points, memes. Okay, memes is a really big one because to them it's all memes. People being black bagged and driven and thrown in vans by masked people, that's a meme to them. It's all a joke. Nothing matters because they're either A, ignorant to it, B, they're kind of a little informed, or they're getting their information from a single source, or C, they are like a full-blown fascist, full stop. Like there's no, like they're either all in or they're just ignorant to what it is. And you see this even online whenever you go and like watch some of the debates that are happening online. Whenever it starts to come up with like, well, whenever the whataboutisms come up, because it comes up from both sides. I mean, we all do it. The MAGA people love to be like, well, I don't know anything about that. You see this happen a lot too on the other end. If you ever watch people go on Tim Pool and Tim, tries to hold their feet to the fire because that's an incredibly hostile debate environment. It's the same thing. Well, Tim will bring up some talking point and be like, well, I'm not really sure about that. But it's just, they love their memes. Okay. So their hostility often makes a deep mistrust of outsiders, and they maintain what is known as a tribal defense, which assumes that anyone not explicitly aligned with them is their enemy. And this is what gives the MAGA movement cohesion, hate and fear of anything quote unquote other. We see this pretty much across the board. Anytime you've ever interacted with people that are like hardcore red hat wearing MAGA people, that is the behavior that they exhibit. And I'm going to pull up some examples, and we're going to go look at the way some of the, and I don't mean like just the run of the mill crazy MAGA people. I mean like the actual leaders, administration holders, high end level influencers. You start looking at people, especially now after the tragic death of Charlie Kirk, their rhetoric has only amped up more. The temperature is only getting hotter. Things are not cooling down, and a lot of that actually not a lot of it. All of the blame I solely place on the way the administration handled it, because I think the administration has a much more nefarious agenda, and I don't think it's Trump, because I think Trump's just basically the culpable idiot. I think that it's the people behind him that are more or less directing, our path towards Nazi Germany, 1939. I would love to be wrong. I would love for it to all just be hyperbolic and for me to just look like a crazy person. But like, based on some of the observations that we've got right now, I guess we'll just see, right? And that's kind of the really unfortunate truth of it, is like there's no way to know for sure. Okay, so invasion of logical engagement. Okay, MAGA people never address any logical rebuttals. Okay, I started doing this to them too. They love to reference the deep state conspiracy theories, or you are so blind to what's happening, without actually addressing the logic of what is supposedly happening. This often includes redirection tactics, okay? Because this is what happened last week. We were talking about what happened with Jimmy Kimmel, and then somebody hops in and is all like, "Oh, well, I saw that you were talking about the FCC, so I guess you were also mad whenever the FBI hid it hid information from Facebook, right?" And it's like, well, the oversight committee proved that that's not what happened. But these MAGA people love to like latch onto their own form of reality that supports their own biases, and instead of using critical thinking, and instead of like asking like, hey, maybe I'm wrong, they'll just double down on it and believe it regardless of any evidence that's presented. And what's so fucking crazy is you'll be like, well, what would it take for it to change your mind? Oh, well, it would depend. It would depend on this and this and this. And you go, well, wait, there's already like, the experts are already saying it's this, this, and this. And they're like, oh yeah, well, I don't trust that. And so it's just like, there's no, it's really just like the feigned like give a shit that annoys me more than anything. Because like, they're not going to change their mind. They don't care. There's no mind changing happening here. Even if you like gave them all the hard evidence in the world, they're not changing their mind. Okay, yeah, they love this is so true. They love double standards. Okay, they love to question whether information is even real, while unreservedly accepting anything from Trump-aligned sources. This is one of the things that I talk about on Twitter. I do this to them all the time on Twitter, where it's like they'll go and they'll like they won't believe. They won't believe that any, like, for example, right now there's all this talk about there were all these FBI agents on J6. There were actually like 274 FBI agents. And you go and like, oh, that's really interesting. That sounds kind of like, like anybody with a fucking with critical thinking skills is going to go, huh? You know what? Let me go. That sounds crazy, but maybe it is true. Especially now that that Trump's got his guy. He's got Kash Patel running the FBI. Maybe Kash found the report and he's making it public because it just supports the administration. So then you go and you look at the report, and it says that the 274 FBI agents that everybody are saying instigated J6 only showed up after they had entered the Capitol. And so you're like, so they were there. They weren't there during. They came after to, I guess, try and assist with law enforcement. And it even says that agents were complaining that they didn't have the right gear to be able to like identify themselves, to be able to assist Capitol Police, none of that. And so we're supposed to, but these people don't, they hear the talking point from someone else. And that person, as far as I'm concerned, has nefarious intentions, okay? Because there are people right now within the online political sphere that are just grifting. They're just doing it to line their own pockets because they have a support base that they have to capitulate to all the time, and they're too cowardly and they're too fucking and everything else that they refuse to ever change or flip or anything. They're 100% devoted to the persona that they've presented and to basically like complete unabashed commitment to the president, and they don't care otherwise. So yeah, the double standard, and it's something known as like motivated skepticism. So basically, so they're only skeptic of the things that aren't in direct support of whatever it is that they want to believe. Just like point blank, period. That's all they care about. Yes. Disengagement when cornered. So if you've ever engaged with them, okay, especially online, like not in I find it much harder for them to do whenever you like hop into voice chats. Like you'll see there's some very famous left-wing TikTokers that do this, where they'll pull these MAGA people in and kind of hold and do like what Timcast does, or like hold their feet to the fire and like force them to engage with the logical points as you lay them out. But a lot of the times you're engaging with them over text, and especially in spaces like Twitter or Threads. And once you start actually, and Facebook, and once you start actually pushing on them with the logic, like, well, what about this? They just disengage, right? They'll ghost you completely. They will stop engaging with you. They don't want to talk to you because it would require them to rethink the what the level of the line of thought that they've already created for themselves. That has like basically, which for MAGA, I mean, it's so cult like, right? Because it's like their entire identity is built around it. So whenever you like really start to push on them, they're like, oh shit, like, oh, I don't want to think about that, because it makes them start questioning the core, like the core logic of what they believe. Um, and let's be real, it's hard to break out of that for a lot of people. It's not something that everybody can always directly engage in. So it makes sense that sometimes people, probably like having to rethink everything that you've been led to believe is pretty difficult for people. So, yeah. So okay, yeah. So the next one is, yeah, projection and accusation as a defense. Recently, I've been reading up on some of the tactics that you see in the more authoritarian space, and one of the things that you see, especially now recently, with like the crazy Alex Jones thing. If you've not seen, Alex Jones has shaved his facial hair into like a Hitler style mustache and is like, "Oh, I'm a Democrat now." This is called accusation in a mirror, and it's a pretty common tactic that like right-wing authoritarian aligned people do. They want to basically make the accusation against other people, which is in turn a projection. And you've probably heard the saying, if you're involved in here, I talk about it a lot, and we talk about it, and it comes up in online politics all the time, where it's called every accusation is a confession. So basically, they'll say things like you're brainwashed by the media, while simultaneously like having a True Social account and liking everything Trump posts. Or they'll say, there's so many examples where they'll just be like, oh yeah, you're just brainwashed into thinking that you should see the truth, and it's just like, no, like I'm not brainwashed. I like went and like I was curious, and I've gone and like investigated and looked into this stuff. Like I'm not. It's so crazy to me, because then whenever you ask them, well, where did you get that information? They either don't provide it, or what they do provide is literally like a Truth Social post, right? Or it's from like an extremely dishonest news organization. Because if you're gonna send me stuff from OAN or Newsmax, you can absolutely go fuck yourself, because those organizations have like publicly lied, like, and they're not held to account. Like whenever Fox News lied about the Dominion machines during the 2020 election, the Republicans still, like a lot of MAGA people, still refuse to acknowledge that Trump fucking lost, even though Fox News had to pay Dominion a shit ton, and Tucker Carlson got fired because they lied. Because Fox News is held to like a different standard, because they're an actual news organization. OAN and Newsmax, those are basically nothing shows. It's like this. Like the FCC is not coming after my show because I'm not a news organization, and that's what Newsmax and OAN are too. But they try to present it as though they're an actual news organization, and it's nonsensical. Yes, reframe the conversation as moral and not factual. So once things start to break down, okay, if they've continued to engage, it will always flip to something else. Okay, this is like and it's not really so much just the straw man effect, right? This is it's like a moving of the goalpost. It's a complete reframing of the argument, because they'll say things like, oh well, at least Trump puts America first. Biden didn't do that. Okay, tell that to all the policies that Biden passed, because Trump hasn't passed a single fucking policy since he's been in office. Okay, he's written a bunch of executive orders, zero policies actually passed. There's no such thing as bipartisanship in the Trump administration. Okay, because he, in his own words, hates the Democrats, and because that's how he functions. Okay, because he's a simple-minded man, and that's what I'm saying. Trump's an idiot, and if you worship Trump, you should reevaluate your own morals, and you should reevaluate the things that you look up to. Okay. The other thing that you'll hear them say is that you hate America, or you hate Christians, or you hate freedom, which is, again, I obviously don't hate America. I served in the U.S. military for over 10 years. I love this country. That's why I'm fucking pissed off at the way it's currently being like basically shat on by the administration, because for selfish gains. I got nothing against people that are Christian. I grew up Christian. I would say that at this point, I'm more of an agnostic. Mostly because there's just too much that we don't know, and I don't feel like the Bible or the Torah or the Quran or any other holy text out there has all the answers, and because I just don't think it's something that we're able to understand. But we can have that conversation later. I certainly don't hate Christians. Some of the best people I know are Christian people. I think that if you're practicing good Christian values, I think that you should. Some of the people that I know that are practicing good Christian values are some of the best people I know. And I certainly don't hate freedom. I think it's ironic whenever Trump supporters or MAGA loves to push back and be like, "You hate freedom," while simultaneously being in like full support of the actual government stomping all over like constitutional amendments in the Bill of Rights uh, against people that they view as like the enemy or as here illegally or as the left leaning, whatever talking point they're fed from all the mouths that eat from the Trump slop. So. Yeah, honestly, this is another good one. I'm glad she put this one in here. Overconfidence in meme-based or anecdotal quote-unquote proof. Remember, like I said, they love to meme. MAGA loves to meme. They don't want to actually go and do research and look into it. They see a meme that supports their insane worldview, and they just reshare like it. They spend zero time actually checking into it, learning, thinking outside of whatever thought process that they poured themselves into. I think it's always really interesting too whenever I look at like the meme world, because at least in my mind, because it's like, okay, so you see these memes, you support them. What is the basis for your support? Oh, well, it's just how I feel. So it's just vibes. So it's like you're not even. Yeah, and it really comes down to where you're getting your information from. I mean, if you've got to spend more time getting information from more than one source, right? Like I talk about it all the time. I am everywhere online. Okay, I try to look at everything. I try to incorporate a lot of information into into my excuse me into my repertoire. Okay, there's a reason why I am still active on every social media, including Truth Social. There's a reason why I still go look at what Fox News is talking about, or Ben Shapiro, or Michael Knowles, or Matt Walsh. I still go and watch these people. It is often annoying, and I tend to strongly disagree with what they say. But I want to know what information they're looking at, where they're getting their information from. And I don't mean just them, but the people that watch them, because people that watch like anything on the Daily Wire, I mean, that's the only place they're getting their information from. Anybody that only watches Fox News, that's the only place they're getting their information from. And I think it's important to get information from everywhere, from a lot of different places. So and then go even one step further to find out where they got that information from. Like, where did it start at? And I get it, it's a lot of work, and people don't want to do it, but I feel like you shouldn't be developing such a strong stance on how you feel about other people from a single source. You should be like a little more open-minded, because that, again, as much as we loved to hear that empathy is ridiculous and evil, that is why America used to work. I was recently, we're going way off topic, and I don't care. I was recently talking with my wife about, are there things that you agree with Charlie Kirk on? Yeah. You know what? One of them is that we don't care about each other anymore. I find it really interesting that Charlie Kirk would sit up there and say he hates the word empathy while trying to sell the idea that we don't care about each other anymore. We don't care about each other anymore because there's one side of the political space that is committed to basically redefine, like not redefining, but telling people how to live their lives instead of just letting them live it. And because they are uncomfortable with the choices that they've chosen, even though they're not hurting anyone. And they loved to repaint that picture as though, well, they are hurting people. They're really not. And while there probably are examples that you could pull up of people living their lives, those examples are just as outlier as the people the people that are doing it, right? I love that. I always think it's amusing whenever everybody loves to point at some of the, crazy trans people online, and just like ignore that there are trans people, that most trans people are probably out here just not even involved in any of that. They don't even behave that way. They're just trying to live their life. And so, it's much more complicated. It's not something we're going to cover right now on the show, but I don't know. I guess I'm just sick and tired. I guess what it is I'm just sick and tired of of everybody pretending that that one side or the other side is trying to destroy America. Because I would honestly say that before MAGA, there was no effort to destroy America, and now it seems like there is an effort to destroy America and turn us into a theocratic Christian nation, which is not the basis of what America is about. And so, if you're if you think America is all about being a Christian nation, you should probably challenge your line of thinking, because that's not what it's about. Okay. I went way off into the weeds there, and I think I kind of lost my train of thought. But that's a part of the show. Let's move on. Okay, so yeah, this one, the cry bullying. Okay, claiming victimhood when challenged. This happens all the time. They love to be bullies, and they love to bully you and bully you and bully you. And then whenever you start bullying them back, they love to cry about it. You ever meet that kid? Whenever you were like in elementary school, and you would see him like hit someone, and then that person would hit them back, and then they'd start crying and call the teacher, and then the other kid would get in trouble. That's what MAGA does. Okay, they continuously turn up the temperature and turn up the temperature and turn up the temperature, and now the shit's hitting the fan. Now they're trying to act like they're the victims. It's idiotic and nonsensical, and it's even gone as far as, do you remember whenever MAGA used to make fun of the left, words aren't violence, and now they're the words are violence people? Like, no. And it's because the left, the liberals, we're done capitulating to this nonsense. We've condemned violence over and over and over and over and over again, and the president of the fucking United States won't. And what's even worse is, like I mentioned earlier, every single time that you're in that you witness the conversations between pundits talking about this stuff, the right-leaning ones are always trying to force left-leaning ones to condemn the violence, and the left-leaning ones aren't doing it anymore, because we're like, I will condemn the violence whenever the president condemns the violence. And then these online talking heads, the right-leaning talking heads want to sit here and try to be like, see, you won't condemn the violence. The fucking president didn't condemn the violence. He blamed the fucking radical left, and then was like, yeah, it's all their fault. Like, that's bullshit and a complete turn up of the temperature, which is the thing that we need to be moving away from. We need to be moving back into unity, back into like a conversation. And everyone will say, well, we could be unified if the left would just stop being so violent. That's bullshit. We have tried to be unified, and the MAGA base refuses to do it. They refuse to be unified because they don't want to be unified. Okay, they want to be hateful. They want to be racist. They want to be all kinds of things. And I'm not saying that I'm mostly talking about the crazy ones, because again, the ignorant ones, they, like most of us, they probably just want to live their lives. And I've talked about that before. There are people out here that just want to go about their daily lives, that don't want any part of this online world that we're operating in here on the show, or that most people, or that a lot of people are operating in online. They don't want to be any part of it. They just want to go to work, and they want to come home, and they want to do their hobbies, and they want to be good Americans. They want to go out trick-or-treating on Halloween. They want to celebrate Christmas. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, except that the current administration is, as far as I'm concerned, actively trying to destroy that idea of America. And that's something that we should all be concerned with. And then this last one probably hits on a little more. MAGA is an identity, not just politics. Okay, engaging with these folks often means you're not debating policy. You're challenging their core identity. This explains why they react with such intensity and take logical critiques personally. Okay, that last one is like the really the key to all of it. Okay, and it's especially true whenever you look at what it is that people within the MAGA world want. What do you want? Oh, I want to be able to provide for my family, like especially the non-grifting, not crazy Nazi-loving, hateful ones. Okay, they want to live their life. Like I was talking about, they want to go trick or treating on Halloween. They want to get their kids presents for Christmas. They want to be able to afford groceries. They want to be able to afford gas. They want to be able to go out on the weekend and stop by the local restaurant and, you know, have a burger. And they are being led to believe that that the side that like the Democrats don't want that for them, which is like, again, just look at the policies. I've asked people to do this one time. Name one policy that Trump has passed that has actually helped accomplish that goal. Because the tariffs aren't doing it. The tariffs are making our prices go up, regardless of what he says. You can go and look at the economic stats, and our economy is not better. Our economy is way worse right now, way worse. But of course, you know, anytime you start having that conversation, because they have built their core identity around what it is that the president represents, they don't want to. They'll just believe whatever it is that Trump says, which is so fucking crazy to me. Okay, I want to talk about this civil discourse guide. Mom worked really hard on this, and I think shortly after she put this together, something I can't even remember what it is now because it's always so crazy. But there was something really crazy had happened, and we wound up not being able to talk about this, and instead we had to shift gears and talk about the craziness. So this is something for people that want to try and engage, I guess, a little more, a little calmer than I want to, because I tend to match energy. It's just the way that I engage with people, both on and offline. I match energy. So if you know, if you want to have a heated argument, we can have a heated argument. If you want to have a calm debate, we can have a calm debate. If you want something in the middle, we'll find it. And some of this, I would say, was probably really, really good at one point. And I would hope that with your kind of run-of-the-mill standard, maybe like, you know, forever Republicans, this kind of discourse might actually bring them around to a more modern engagement. So, this I know Mom has this up on what is that website? Medium. And she basically writes out ways that you can engage with, again, your more run-of-the-mill MAGA types, not your like hardcore ones. So, yes, I love this thing, and I want to read down this. And actually, hang on, let me see. We could pull it up, and I'll share it because this is really, really good. Really, really good stuff. Give me 1 sec. We're gonna come over here. Set up. All right. Okay. So again, something Mom put together. So the goal of this document is to help people recognize and respond, not react to predictable, disruptive patterns of communication from MAGA Trump supporters. Note, friends, this is not about how to own Trumpers. That's in big quotes. If you want to see own Trumpers, you can go watch like you can watch like Parker or Dean. Like those, one of the reasons why I tend not to get really involved in their debate styles is because they're more trying to, you know, trying to, like, in a way, I guess it's still grifting, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to please their audiences. They're not trying to have, good debate. That's not entirely their, I guess, their fault, because it's really hard to engage with certain people within the MAGA community. Actually, most people in the MAGA community, especially if they're hardcore MAGA, in good faith. So they just don't bother. But it's important to know this is about how to reclaim, remain calm, fact-based, and avoid getting derailed, demoralized, or demonized. Okay. So what? Who cares? Why does it matter? The cost of toxic discourse. As with any acid, toxic discourse corrodes the foundation of healthy society by making sincere, honest dialogue virtually impossible. When conversations are fueled by insults, manipulation, or disinformation, people retreat into echo chambers or ideological silos. Relationships fracture, and trust in institutions erodes. We're way past all that, I think, at this point, unfortunately. The end result isn't just discomfort or frustration, it's civic paralysis, right? It's exactly kind of the road at which we've reached. And if you talk to anybody about it, MAGA will say, "Oh, that was because Charlie Kirk was killed." But we were at civic paralysis way before that. Pretty much any time you would see any conversation, it always would derail into arguments about what's true and what's not. And then again, that's I think the goal of this guide is to find ways to defeat that mindset. So without a shared framework or truth, or without a shared framework for truth or mutual trust, communities become polarized to the point of dysfunction. The collective problems go unresolved because no one can agree on the nature of reality, let alone the path forward. Yes. The psychological toll of engaging in bad faith. When you enter conversations with people who are not arguing honestly, these people who deflect, distort, or gaslight, it can leave you feeling exhausted, demoralized, or even doubting your own grasp on truth. Over time, repeated exposure to bad faith arguments usually triggers feelings of helplessness or anger, saps your motivation to stay informed or involved, and makes it harder to trust others in general. Yes. Okay. It's not just frustrating, it's depleting because your energy is spent defending facts rather than exchanging ideas. This is actually one of the things that makes that always, in my opinion, made watching debates like whenever Charlie Kirk went on again RIP, whenever he went on what is that one, the Jubilee show. I tended to get really frustrated with the constant shifting and changing of facts, or of effects of the constant shifting and changing of topics, because the road at which, like, anytime it basically started to get into, well, let's discuss the facts, there would just be a lot of disengagement, and it's incredibly frustrating to watch those kinds of debates. Okay, but let's keep going. Sorry. It's not just frustrating, it's depleting because your energy is spent. Yeah, okay. Left unchecked, the psychological wear can lead to burnout and disengagement, which is often the goal of the manipulator. How educating yourself on patterns protects you. Learning to reorganize patterns of manipulative or toxic communication equips you with the mental tools to stay grounded and strategic rather than reactive. When you can name what's happening, whether it's a deflection, a projection, or a deliberate erosion of facts, you're less likely to internalize the attack or get pulled into pointless spirals. The awareness creates emotional distance, allowing you to choose when and how to engage and when to walk away. In a world flooded with disinformation and performative outrage, this kind of literacy isn't just useful, it's a form of psychological self-defense. This part is probably like the core principle of how I think most people should be engaging online these days, especially if you're anti-MAGA, because this whole part, this part right here, whether it's deflection, a projection, or deliberate erosion of facts, that tends to happen almost every single time you start to get involved in conversations, especially the whole bits of whataboutism that it frustrates me to no end. Reorganize the patterns and how best to respond. Note, the response to these patterns are designed for durability. They keep you grounded and clear-headed while giving the other person space to either step up or step away. So preemptive hostility or derision. This always happens. Every single time I try to start any of these conversations, we immediately fall into sarcasms, insults, libtard, name-calling, parroting of Fox or Trump talking points or slogans. This part is wild. Every single time you get into like you're trying to get into like maybe a genuinely honest discussion or debate, it's always this fucking way to go. We're just like, well, what about this? What about no? Okay. And these are fun. These some of this I've tried some of this, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Disarm with tone. Use calm, factual language and don't mirror the aggression. That's not me. I've told Mom before. I read all this once before, and I told her like I'll try some. I'll try some of it. I promise. Call out the tone without escalation. I'm happy to discuss, but I don't respond to insults. Want to try again? Use graceful disengagement if needed. If you're not interested in real discussion, I'll leave it there. Goal: establish boundaries, maintain dignity, signal to others that that civility is the standard. This is actually probably a really good, like a really solid way that you could engage. I would imagine it's harder in certain digital spaces, especially whenever in spaces where long form like there's not a limitation on content. Like Twitter's gotten a lot better now, where there's like you can do pretty long form content, especially if you're a premium user, where it'll still kind of show what you're talking about. So it might be a good way to like push back on people, but I really think it just depends, because they'll just double down a lot of time. Evasion of logic. Sorry, let's go. Pattern 2, evasion of logic, conspiratorial deflection. This is what happened the last time, on the last show. What about Hillary? You're blind to the truth. Deep state runs everything. This last part, you don't see it much anymore. And I think the reason that you don't see the deep state runs everything is because they're the deep state now, and they don't want to blame the deep state anymore, because who's in charge? The person that they support. So now that the deep state would be on their side, that they have to, the deep state doesn't exist anymore. This is, and it's a classic example of like the all roads lead to Rome logic, where there's like Trump will say that there's a problem, and then he'll apply a fix to the problem, and then the problem goes away. But there was never a problem anyway. It's like the cats and dogs thing. It's like the deep state thing. It's like the swamp thing. Like these things never existed. They were never true. It was just tactics and rhetoric to garnish supporters. And now that they're the ones in power, and it turns out that none of it was true, now we're not talking about it anymore. Now it's not a problem anymore. And of course it's not a problem because Trump fixed it, but there was never a problem in the first place. That's where people get lost. And that's what I'm trying to say. There was never an issue, ever. It was all made up. It was all bullshit. But anyway, these other ones, this happened last time. You're blind to the truth. What about Hillary? Okay, redirect with precision. Hey, I'm happy to talk about that, but can we finish talking about this other thing first? Ask for clarity. What exactly do you mean the deep state? And can you define what the deep state is? Which now I guess you would just say the current administration. Using Socratic questioning. Gently walk them into realizing they're dodging. If everything is a conspiracy, how can anything be verified? This is actually something that I started doing recently, where whenever you talk about like, Reuters or Reuters said this. Well, how can you trust Reuters? I was like, well, Reuters sent a journalist out to investigate this topic, and they're like, well, how can you trust that? I'm like, I'm not going to fucking go out and verify it myself, right? Like, if we're talking about reports in the war in Ukraine, I'm not going to travel to Ukraine to verify the reports. I'm going to trust that the journalists are going out and doing their fucking jobs. That's what they get paid to do, and they have to provide evidence for everything that they claim anyway. Otherwise, they get sued like Fox News, and then they get fired like Tucker Carlson. Yeah. So slow spiral, reward logical engagement. Don't chase the deflections. True. That's very, very good advice. So pattern 3, double standard and evidence. What it looks like. You trust that study? How do you know it's real? I was just talking about this. How do you know it's real? While citing stuff that Trump says is gospel. That's actually the thing that's probably more maddening now than it was before. Especially like whenever you talk about like what's going on in Portland. He's like, oh, it's war ravaged, and you'll go into watch what the governor and shit is talking about, and all the comments underneath they'll be like, oh yeah, Portland's a shithole, blah 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 blah, and then you'll like go and like click on those profiles, and it's kind of questionable on if people are telling the truth, or if it's Russian disinformation, or if it's literally just people like fanning the flames and spreading and just spreading the ignorance. I don't know exactly what it would or wouldn't be. I can just tell you that Portland, for everything that we know, is doing just fine, and that the reason why the Trump administration wants to send the National Guard out to Portland is really all just deflection and stuff. I mean, I think it's really interesting. I'm not a conspiratorial guy, but I think it's really interesting that all of this crazy shit is going down right around the time that they were getting ready to pass a bill to release the Epstein files. Again, let's not buy in. We don't know anything. I can just tell you that there's a lot of evidence that Trump and Epstein were really close, and Trump seems pretty concerned about those files being released. I want to leave it at that until one day maybe we find out what the actual truth there is. Okay, but they'll say, yeah, again, they love to quote anything that Trump says, but then whenever you provide things like, well, how do you know that's true? Well, I certainly think that like Reuters or New York Times, or pretty much, most of the major journalist organizations are probably doing a lot more research. They're spending a lot more time verifying the things that they're reporting than Trump is on Truth Social, because he's spending zero time reporting anything because he's an idiot. So the counter strategy: highlight the inconsistency without judgment. Interesting that you question peer-reviewed studies but accept Trump's word without question. I don't do the can we talk about why? I have recently started doing the thing where it's like, I think it's amusing how much you people used to scream about the deep state lying to you and then blindly believe and follow everything that Trump says. So, probably worth taking a look at, analyzing where you're getting your information from instead of just taking everything the president says as truth, because he lies about everything all the time. Invite a common standard. Let's both agree to not rely on anonymous sources or memes, and then want to hold each other to that. I imagine that this is where you're going to see a lot of disengagement. Yeah, this one, disengagement when confronted. They ghost. Go silent. Okay. I love that there's no counter strategy here. Leave a closing note for onlookers. Looks like the conversation is ended. I'm still open if they decide to come back. Facts don't go away just because it's uncomfortable. This is true pretty much all the time, and it's probably something that probably worth actually trying to do more, especially because ghosting is a pretty common tactic that I feel like I encounter all the time anytime I try to have online discussions. Is the second that you start, especially if you start providing like links to sources and stuff, that just stop talking to you, and they're not going to go read it. So I tell mom all the time, I'm not debating to win over people anymore, because I realize that there's just people that can't be won over. When I get into debates with people, I'm debating for anyone that's hanging out and listening and watching. It's just, I think it's pretty imperative. Don't chase document. If it's public, sometimes screenshotting or summarizing the pattern can help others. Okay, you want to preserve your energy. Show that ghosting isn't a win; it's a surrender. That's probably the best thing you could do, because that's how you get people to kind of re-engage. A projection accusation as defense. Yeah. Every accusation is a confession. Okay. This is also the accusation and mirror thing I was talking about. We can take a look at that here in a little bit. But what does it look like? You're the one who's brainwashed. Sounds like you're just repeating what you heard on CNN. And yeah, this is good. Whoa, what makes you think that? Although I feel like you can kind of predict what the response to this is going to be, right? Well, what makes you think that? Well, because that's what they're saying on CNN. And you go, oh, that's interesting. Or this one. This is probably a good way. Excuse me. I've actually been careful to source my info. Can you point to where it seemed off to you? That's probably a really good way to go. Ask for specifics. What exactly did I say that you feel like that makes you feel like I wasn't thinking for myself? Avoid emotional mirroring. Invite clarity, not conflict. This is probably actually a really strong defense to the projection and accusation. I really like this one. I'm glad that she included this. This is really good. Moral high ground shift. So they'll say, I just care about protecting kids, freedom, the Constitution. You don't care about that, clearly. I see that all the time. What's funny is I actually don't see this very much, and I think it's because pretty much everywhere that I engage online, I have in my bio that I'm a 10-year Marine Corps veteran. I love this country. I love everything this country stands for. I love America. It's why I'm pushing back so hard on the direction in which America is heading, because I just finished reading General Mattis's book, and he talks about it, in his book, that the biggest conflict that we're going to see, and now we're seeing, is the tribalism within our politics is getting pretty out of control, and that it's going to basically drive what he calls it the American experiment, because it really is. I mean, we're pretty young for a nation, and the Constitution is definitely not an infallible document. And that's demonstrated first and foremost. But this happens. I rarely see a lot of this too much, but this is something that I have seen other people deal with. So the counter strategy to this is affirm values but refocus. I care about that too. It's actually why I brought this up. Like I just said, I do care about those things because I love this country. I think yeah. Return to substance. We may agree on values. The question is how policies reflect them. Let's go back to the details. Yes. Grounded up in outcomes. Let's talk about whether this policy actually does protect kids' freedoms, etc. So yeah, just undermine false moral binaries and keep the focus on policy or reality, not personal virtue. This actually works across the board with any conversation. This isn't just about engaging with like these kind of MAGA talking points. This is kind of across the board. There's two types of worlds that you can that everybody imagines. Okay, there is your ideological world, like what would things be like ideally, and the and the realistic world, the reality in which we actually live in. And what happens a lot of the times is that those two things they're at conflict with one another, and we should be like grounding our ideas in ways our ideas and that ideas on the ways we want to move forward in the reality, seeking to get to the ideal, right? So, for example, I think it would be great if we had some form of universal healthcare. What does that look like? I think that the single payer system could work. I think that we could expand Medicaid to be for all. I think because the goal for me at the end of it is that everybody has, universal basic healthcare. And the reality is that we don't have that, but we could have it in certain ways. So I think that's important, like across the board for everything. I think people get hung up on like on the perfect fix to everything that they want, and they don't think at all about how we reach that point. And so I think that this argument, right? This argument right here works for more than just MAGA. It works for a lot of people, and like arguing against their ideal moral basis on which they think everything should be. Pattern 7, confidence in memes as evidence. Okay, someone posts a meme screenshot and it says facts from an expert. Yeah, facts from an expert, or out of context quote as proof to their point. I've done this before. I go, do you know where this quote came from? I'm curious about the full context. Oh, I don't know. I'll get a lot of I don't know. Gently challenged from it. I said, I choose not to base conclusions on memes. Do you have a more detailed source? I don't know. I imagine you're going to get some combative responses to that. Provide contrast. Here's a fact-checked source that complicates that claim a bit. Yeah, normalize deeper sourcing and model information hygiene. Yeah, this is actually something that I think is really important whenever I see stuff, especially on like Twitter. I think this last week, Timcast posted some chart on like how much more violence there is in Democrat cities versus Republican cities with zero source information. Like it looks like it's a meme chart. It's so bonkers to me that they post these things with impunity, with like, and that people that believe and support whatever like them are just like, yeah. It's like, well, like where did that come from? Where and they'll never like feed it back to you like, oh, I got it from this. They'll just say like, oh, I fed it into an AI or something crazy. Pattern 8, victimhood flip. Again, this is that cry bully. Okay. This is, I guess I'm not allowed to have an opinion anymore. Oh, I'm just asking questions. That's another one you see. I call it jacking off. I'm just asking questions. Says, wow, so now I'm the bad guy for thinking differently. Validate the right to opinion, not to go unchallenged. Of course, you're allowed your opinion, and I'm allowed to ask questions about it. Bingo. Challenging a claim isn't the same as silencing a person, and just stick to the point. I'm not attacking you. I'm challenging the idea. Yeah, this is really, really the probably the biggest route to success in the conversations that you'll have. Is pointing out to them that's like, you're free to have that opinion. I'm just challenging your opinion. You not liking that doesn't like this. I'm not attacking you. I'm challenging the idea. Is the perfect way to summarize how you should engage with the cry bully behavior, because it's nonsensical. Pattern 9, MAGA as identity armor. What it looks like. I just want my country back. I stand with Trump because he stands with me. End of story. I feel like I don't know why you would say I just want my country back. You didn't lose America. You've been anyone that has this feeling. I mean this. I mean this as mean as it sounds. You've been duped. Okay, and as much as you don't like it, because you've been duped and you refuse to believe that you haven't been duped, we have to treat you like you're a 4-year-old. Okay, I've had a 4-year-old, and whenever a 4-year-old, doesn't understand something or doesn't want to believe something, you have to be like very patient, and you have to sit them down and explain it. And that really hurts people's feelings. That whenever you compare them to a 4-year-old, which I would say, if you don't want me to treat you like a 4-year-old, please stop acting like a 4-year-old. Okay, you've got to accept that maybe you weren't right. Maybe Trump is an idiot, and maybe you should consider that as one of the possibilities instead of just sticking your head in the sand or up your own ass and not acknowledging that this I just want my country back line of thinking is not at all what you haven't lost America. We're losing America right now. It wasn't lost before now. Separate the person from the politics. You matter more than any politician. I'm talking about politics, not your worth. Yeah, that's really good. We both want the country to thrive. Yes, we both want the country to thrive. We just have different ideas about how to get there. I miss this. I miss this so much. I miss whenever we could agree on the facts and we could disagree on the solutions, because then that was the era of politics that I miss, because now we've got people getting shot and killed, which is disgusting as hell. And we've got a president that, instead of just teaching unity, is blaming one side for it. And we've got to get back to this. Can we please get back to this? Let's all do that. Let's work on getting back to that. Ask gentle questions. Have you ever disagreed with him on anything? No. Sorry, the answer is no. They don't. Curious where your boundaries are. As much as I love this one, anytime you ever say, well, where's the line in the sand for you? Well, if he did this or this, I think one of them was like, there was like a text message with somebody and their mom, and they're like, at what point are you going to not be okay with Trump black bagging people? Well, maybe if it was my kid. Like, I can't fathom, like, we've got to stop it before it gets to the point where it's my kids. Okay? Goal, create room for self-reflection without threatening identity. This is something that I've had to work on really hard, knowing when to step away. Engaging in difficult conversations can be rewarding, but sometimes continuing is unproductive or harmful to your well-being. Recognizing when to disengage protects your energy, maintains respect, and preserves your credibility for further discussions. Yeah. When to disengage. Repeated personal attacks or insults. Yeah, but whenever people start going down this track, I just spit right back at them, because fuck people. Circular arguments with no openness to evidence, that happens so much. Okay, this one right here, this next one's is what happened last week. Use of universal escalation tactics, gaslighting, or whataboutism. The whataboutism side of this thing it fucking frustrates the shit out of me, right? I can't. I'm not gonna deal with whataboutism. And again, if people want to engage in chat, please go for it. But I'm not gonna debate you. I'm not gonna debate you in chat. That's ridiculous. And like, maybe if you want to have a debate, maybe one of these days, I'll do like a midweek debate stream or something. But that's not what this channel's about. That's not what I'm trying to do here. So, oh man. Okay, emotional overwhelm. It's frustration or stress. Emotional overwhelm, if frustration or stress is rising, the conversation feels stuck or is going in circles. Recognize the sunken cost fallacy. This is actually something that comes up in more than just online debate, but like the sunken cost fallacy, like, oh, I've already spent this time. I don't think I've ever had that problem in online debate. Most of the time you'll have that problem when I'm playing video games, admittedly. Oh man. I have missed all the chats on the other thing, and so I'm just trying to. So yeah, remember, yes, this is. I'm glad you hopped in. Remember that you like to argue. It says memes as fact. It's the one going around. Yeah. Yeah. With the inaccurate statistics about transgender folks being involved in shootings. Yeah, I've seen that one recently. Like I said, there was one that came up a while back. That was the like the violence in left-wing cities versus right-wing cities. Yeah, it's just crazy. Let's see. Oh, so how to leave a conversation with dignity. Like this one. I appreciate your perspective, but I think we're going in circles. let's agree to disagree and visit another time. I use that one a lot, not just in online debates, but like just in general. And I'm going to take a break from this topic for now. So this is the final thought. Sometimes the goal isn't to win the person, it's to win the moment. This is the thing that I talk about, that I've talked about to mom, that I talk about to anybody whenever we talk about engaging in debate in general. The goal is not to win over who you're debating, because that's not likely to happen. People are pretty staunch in their beliefs. I prefer to think of it as you could be planting a seed where people are like where they want to be right, and so they dig into the topic that you were debating, and it makes them realize that they weren't right in what they were talking about. Okay, but so sometimes the goal isn't to win the person, it's to win the moment, especially when others are watching. Calm, informed civil behavior creates dissonance in those expecting a fight. This is often more powerful than any stat that you can throw. Yeah, I would actually, in general, that's probably something that yeah. If you can get, like I said, sometimes you're not going to win over a single person, but you might have the advantage to win over other people that are watching, or to plant a seed in the person that you're having the debate with, to make that kind of encourages them to go and look into it, and maybe they'll wind up changing their mind later on. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, like, if you ever seen the movie Inception, you know, like in the movie Inception, they have to like go into this guy's dream because they're trying to get him to make a business decision that, like, for his company, because they're his dad. Like, anyway, so the idea is that they're going to implant it in his mind in a dream. So it's kind of like that, but like that's what you're doing in the discussion, is you're trying to like plant a seed in their mind that gets them to be like, well, like maybe a little bit of self-doubt that makes them want to go and like look into it and decide for themselves. So I meant to share this. I think we've got it in the description, and if not, I will make sure that it gets into the description. This is the MAGA Civil Discourse Guide. I guess I could switch over to it now. This is what I was reading the whole time, and I meant to switch to this view, so I am sorry for that. But this document is it's really, really comprehensive, and I know I want to say it's on, I think it's Medium. Mom will correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, you can find this online, and it's really, really good information. So, what was the next? Oh, so one of the next things that I really, really want to talk about, is the rhetoric. That's kind of what I wanted the whole show to be about, but I really wanted to get into this discourse guide because I think it's really, really important that we talk about it. So, when we're talking about rhetoric, one of the things that's come up recently, is how the temperature is always going up and it ain't never coming down. And so if we're going to have this this crazy temperature increase, I think it's important to point to who it is that's raising the temperature, so that way we can all agree that maybe if the administration's not going to lower the temperature, maybe we can try and lower the temperature without them. I think that's really hard to do, because people in this nation, we have a president. He's supposed to be the leader of our country. And if the president's message is the radical left is destroying America, they're the ones that are killing people, they need to be destroyed, then a lot of people are going to be like, the left is destroying America, they're the radical people, we need to destroy them. So, I think that I think it's important to note that there are people on the left, not, I would say, like from everyone I've seen, it's like anonymous, no-name TikTokers that praised the death of Charlie Kirk. There are people on the right that are like no-name right-leaning pundits that are calling for unity. I'm not talking about those people, because those people don't matter. Their behavior is either good or deplorable, depending. I mean, let's be honest. The TikTokers praising Charlie Kirk's death, they're deplorable, and the people on the right that are calling for unity, they're not. But their voices are irrelevant, because the leadership of the parties, right? You may not like it. We're in a two-party system. The leaders of the party have two completely split ideas on what the path forward here is. So one of the things that I wanted to bring up is that there is some pretty strong evidence-based differences in the way that MAGA engages versus the way that liberals engage, especially recently. So let's get into it. Let's talk about tone and register. Okay, these are direct threats and applause for harsh punishments. So MAGA-aligned public rhetoric more frequently uses... Oh yeah, I should probably pull over the thing I'm reading, huh? Okay, so MAGA-aligned public rhetoric more frequently uses militaristic, punitive metaphors such as fight, crush, crackdown, language of enemies, and invasion. Okay, and again, Trump has loved to come out and say things like, "Yeah, we need to destroy the radical left." We're going to label Antifa as a terrorist organization. I think it's important to remember Antifa is not an organization. They don't have like a leadership structure. They don't have really any. They're not. They're like, you can label them as a terrorist organization. There's no structure to that movement. Okay, it's an ideological movement, meaning that whenever people would come out and they'd say, I'm Antifa. It's just like a personalized thing. There's no evidence, and I'll own this. If that changes and it turns out that there is some big Antifa organization, and it's not just the Trump administration saying that they exist, because you know what? I don't trust them because they have been caught lying about a lot of things. So I need more than Trump saying it. Okay. But at times explicitly, they use punitive metaphors and at times explicitly endorse legal or extra legal punishments for opponents. Okay. Rally transcripts show repeated use of words like fight, make them pay, and we're under attack. Okay. Oh yeah, this is a good example. So here we go. I mean, if we go down this list, I just want to make, if we go make... Yeah, make them pay. Okay. Your children, your wife, nobody can be there. Oh, that... Okay, no, and let's go back up. It's so hard to read Trump. I mean, the way he talks is really difficult to deal with. Okay. Again, I'm trying to figure out the... Okay, these two anchors, Dana Bush, fake, Tapper, CNN, no audience, nobody, and the crowd screams nobody. And Donald Trump says, your children, your wife, nobody can be on that. Nobody can be there. Oh, that's going to be interesting for them, though. And then the crowd screams, make them pay. And then Trump says, nobody can be there. And then they say no. He really does love to rile these people up. Yeah, and they'll say stuff like this. We're the party of common sense. As an example, it's big stuff. It's bigger than people think. Why would anybody want to have men play in women's sports? Why? And the crowd boos. Okay. That's probably a conversation we can have some other time. But like if we go down to that, or we go down to like fight. Oh man. Yeah, right here. Okay. Do you know what's going on in New York? They're fighting. They're having fist fights with police in the middle of the streets. Fist fights. Like this is all, and the thing is, it's all like nonsensical lies, bullshit. Like none of this is true. Okay. All right. So liberal rhetoric tends to empathize legal, administrative remedies, and moral critique, accountability, reform, defend democracy. Although some activists use urgent confrontational language too. Polling analysis note that harsh rhetoric exists on both sides but differs in form. I would say that that's probably true. Probably more true today than, and see, this is super recent, and this is the stuff that I'm talking about. The rhetoric that we're seeing today is only being amped up, fueled even harsher, or even further by the administration, because the Democrats we're not capitulating anymore. I literally watched on CNN. I don't know if you know who Adam Mockler is. He's an online political pundit. He was on CNN with a Republican senator who was basically saying, like, you need to take accountability for the political violence. To Adam Mockler. If you don't know who that is, Adam Mockler is like a 22-year-old political YouTuber. And Adam had the perfect, you know what? We could probably go find it. Adam had the perfect retort, which was like, the president of the United States isn't turning it down. So, like, by what logic do I need to be the one that turns it down? Adam Mockler, CNN debate. Yeah, it's this one. It's probably a bit of Mockler in his own horn, but I really want to see, because this was a day ago.
Can't you just take responsibility for it?
Oh,
on the left.
Me?
You literally said that.
Listen, let me finish.
And then you agreed with
that right there. He wants, so this guy, I can't remember this guy's name. I think it's this guy, Scott Jennings, right? Yeah. Okay. So, okay, my bad. He's an American conservative political strategist, commentator, and writer. So he's not a senator. I thought that he was a senator. Okay, I want to pull up the transcript because I don't want to spend a lot of time. But let's go. Because that's yeah. Right here. Right here. Let's start here. Pretty far into it.
Communities. Donald Trump,
but it's Trump's
10
fault.
years ago, Donald Trump amped up the tension in America.
So he ran 10 years ago, and this guy then 10 years later, somehow you're connecting. Can't you just take responsibility for it?
Oh,
on the left.
But let's not do the, like, he has to take responsibility because he's a Democrat.
I'm a 22-year-old YouTuber. You want me to take more responsibility than the President of the United States?
That's it right there. I mean, we can play the whole rest of the video. I just want to commentate on this exact point. Scott Jennings comes on CNN and wants Adam Mockler to take responsibility for the political violence, but the President of the United States.
I want you to understand.
I'm a 22-year-old YouTuber.
I want you to understand that we are in the middle of an epidemic of left-wing violence. They're attacking ICE. They shot Charlie. It's happening all over the country. We have these Free Palestine people running around trying to burn down the Pennsylvania governor's mansion. On and on
then
and
maybe
on.
the president.
It's not Trump's fault.
The president of the United
States.
States.
The left has radicalized to the point of saying we're done talking and we're going to start shooting.
Scott, the data indicates. Scott, is Trump amping down the tensions?
Amping down the tensions?
Yeah, is he taking the tensions down?
That's a great question.
I think he's mad that his friend got murdered. If you want that.
Okay. Yeah, he was mad enough that he again. This is the zero accountability side of the things. They don't want to take any accountability, but they want liberals or leftists or basically anyone that is not aligned to the administration to take accountability. I said this before and I'll say it again. MAGA the only people MAGA holds accountable are Democrats.
Yeah, number one, on the Trump front, we need unifying leadership from the top.
Yeah.
You didn't hear Obama, Dylan Roof shot up a black church. He's saying Amazing Grace. He didn't say, I will go after my enemies, number one. Number two, we see the data indicates otherwise. There is left-wing.
And just remember, this is really important, the DOJ just took down all of the reports that they had that showed that right-wing violence was worse than left-wing violence. That's gone. It used to be up on their website, and now it's not.
Violence. Right-wing violence. The Cato Institute, far from some far left liberal bastion, said 63% of the murders from political terrorism between 1975 and September 11, 2025 was from the right. The second below that is jihadists at 23%. So the data doesn't, and also the DOJ scrubbed the website.
Yeah,
that said
you talked about it too.
Of the violence comes from the right. And again, I actually don't want to get into the game of blaming because I actually agree with Adam's take from the other night where he talked about the acceleration of radicalization online. There's a broader problem with young men, incel culture that's going on here. That's not just like, obviously we need our political leaders to be more representative of like positive masculinity and of not just blaming the other side. I mean, you know, every time there's an instance of violence, saying, you know what, I'm going to prosecute Soros now. Next up, that's not the way to do it. So I think Adam's right. It comes from the top down.
Yes.
And I think at the same time.
So now we have two people here who are saying it's Donald Trump's fault that someone shot up an ICE facility.
Yeah, but again, let's talk about this is
You literally said that.
Listen, let me finish.
And then you agreed with it.
You want to know what I said? I said Donald Trump created this environment over the past decade. You sat here and said, I need to take responsibility. I'm a 22-year-old YouTuber. You hold me to a higher standard than the man that
I'm
we
holding
just
you to your
listened
standard of your punditry.
Donald
Your
Trump was
punditry
just
is that Trump's at
vomiting
fault.
vitriol out of his mouth about how the other party is weak and evil. And he just said the party of hate, evil, and Satan. You blind yourself to that, and you're focusing on a 22-year-old YouTuber.
Since I've been in politics, I was working.
so there's kind of the whole point of it is, and the thing that I kind of brushed on at the start of it. Okay, I think that online TikTokers praising the death of Charlie Kirk is disgusting. I think that if there are people on the right that are calling for unity, I think that maybe the right needs to lift those people up more. But instead, that's not what we're seeing. Instead, what we're seeing is we're watching the President of the United States during the memorial for Charlie Kirk talk about how much he hates the left. We literally watched Stephen Miller almost quote, and I'm not being hyperbolic. Go and watch the speech. Literally on stage, more or less plagiarizing a Nazi speech. It's insane to me that people think that like one side is calling for violence and the other side isn't. No, it's not true. It's nonsense. So let's go down just a little. I just want to make sure. Okay, we're gonna have time. All right. So use of existential framing, us versus them, intensity. So matter rhetoric more often frames political conflict as existential, an invasion of existential assault on the nation. Yeah, we definitely see this a lot. Okay, which justifies zero-sum language and emergency-style call to actions, rally, debate language, and commentary from supporters frequently adopt that frame. I can show you examples of this, and I'm glad that So we'll talk about this. You know what? This is this is a turning point in Phoenix, Arizona, the first rally since his conviction. This is something that he talks about. But if you go watch his speech at Charlie Kirk's memorial, I mean, I don't. It's crazy. It gets even more crazy because if you come over to I got my Twitter pulled up here. If you come over to and you watch what they're saying here, it's crazy to me how much hate these people spread around. Okay, I don't know how much of this you've actually sat and watched.
Disagrees with you is a Nazi. If you want to stop political violence, stop telling your supporters that everybody who disagrees with you is a Nazi.
My opponent, a known neo-Nazi. These people used to walk around with white hoods at night. Now they're walking around with white hoods in the daytime.
If you want to
I love that. I love how cut out that is. Because we're gonna get down this. Today's not a good day. Yesterday it was wild how much was going on Twitter, just blown up in the space. And I think today because of the fire, and we're still talking about some of the other stuff. But this is the stuff I guess you see, like this guy especially. I mean, this guy's pretty sickening to me whenever I see some of the things that he encourages and supports, and it's kind of without thought, or actually, I would just say it's probably with full thought. How much he kind of is in full support of like the Christian, theocratical, Christo-fascist state coming into existence. So. But yeah, let's go back. Zero-sum language. So rally, debate language, and commentary from supporters frequently adopt the frame. Trump loves to bring in his He loves to bring in the crowd. It's one of the reasons why he energizes people so much, especially whenever he was first coming into the office. And so he talks about, let's see, it's so hard to follow because the way that he talks is just like all over the place. Because I don't know which senator he's talking about, but you can, if you kind of see down this, he talks about we had the best economy, we had the best border, we had the best of everything, and now we get to do it all over again. Just to be clear, whenever Trump left office in 2020, we did not have those things. And through Biden's administration from 2020 to 2024, as much as everybody loved to scream about how bad the inflation was, nobody wanted to pay attention to the fact that global inflation was worse. And one of the reasons why we didn't have terrible inflation here was because of a bunch of the policies that Biden passed for our country. And we did have a booming economy whenever he took over, and it dipped, and then it started moving back up again. And people would say, oh, yes, you were hitting these records again, but we could have had better records if we hadn't implemented the policies. And if we want to talk about the deficit issue, how the tariffs are bringing everything in, I think it's important to remind everyone that the people that pay for tariffs, we pay for tariffs, okay? Our companies pay for tariffs. That's how tariffs work. So he'll say, oh, we have the best border, and we're going to do it all again. We're going to do even better. I just went through a rigged trial in New York, and people are booing. And he says, with a highly conflicted judge, where there was no crime, except he was convicted of 34 counts. And I'm really, this is that like reframing of reality. He was convicted. He tries to say it was all fake and fabricated. And of course he would. Okay. So, but let's go. So liberal rhetoric often more frames fights versus battles for values, rights, or institutions, civil rights, climate, and justice, which still produces strong polarization, but less frequently invokes national eminence metaphors. Okay. MAGA rhetoric shows a reoccurring pattern of identifying cultural or demographic outgroups, for example, looking at things like immigrants, deep states, or certain elites as the proximate threat. This scapegoating is often tied to nativist or conspiratorial claims. This is so true, and this goes back to the thing where it's like people loved to talk about how there were millions of immigrants that were coming into the country at one point, if we all remember. And I always thought that it was like, wow, that's really crazy. Well, then you go and like look up what he's talking about whenever we talk about there were millions of immigrants coming in the country, and it wasn't at all the way that they were explaining it. But we still love to blame the immigrants or the deep state or certain elites. We don't want to talk about the fact that the president's a billionaire who surrounded himself by sycophants who has pardoned more people than any other president, and most of them are his personal associates. We don't want to talk about that. No, we want to focus on the elites that don't agree with him, because those are the bad guys. Liberal rhetoric more often targets institutions, corporations, and policies. Fossil fuel companies, and specific laws. I don't feel like this is entirely. Well, I guess if we're talking strictly in liberal. If you look in the leftist space, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I think that the Democratic Party needs to focus more on liberalism and not capitulating or caving to leftist, is because for the leftist people, it'll never be good enough, ever. No matter what, things will never be good enough. So we need to stop capitulating to leftists, and we need to start focusing on like liberal ideals. I think it's really, really important for the future of the nation. They use identity-based appeals in defense of marginalized groups rather than the principled villain label. Academic reviews note distinct targets set between the sides. A normalization of violent imagery and implied action. MAGA discourse in the last 8 months contained more frequent use of violent imagery and implied calls to action that can be read as legitimizing political violence. Analysts and journalists draw connections between inflammatory language and subsequent threats and attacks. This is that like every projection is or every accusation is a projection side of this thing, because, and I'm glad that we're looking more at, like, again, at the Phoenix rally, I'm glad we're looking more at this shit's so hard to watch, man. Audio's garbage.
Russia makes its money with energy.
Okay, good. It's not just me. It is quiet in the left channel. Man, he really loves to talk. You know, I'm not even gonna bring up these examples, because like if you go look at like the fact that you know, Trump was out here tweeting about how he was gonna send the military, you know, to invade Chicago, and the imagery that he used for that. Like yeah, this shit is wild to me. And this guy again, like this is just an example. But that imagery is all over the is really just all over the place. Says while some on the left have used force used force forward metaphors, resist direct action. Mainstream liberal leaders, this is what I'm talking about, and reputable outlets in this period generally condemned violence and emphasized nonviolent remedies. Polling showed public belief that harsh rhetoric fuels violence. You know, after the death of Charlie Kirk, I actually sent some really some prime examples out about how if you went and looked at like what each side was saying whenever some of that stuff was going down, because I thought it was really, really crazy to me that you know, we're talking the you know, the right is saying, oh, the radical violent leftist in the Democratic Party, when like if you went and just looked at what the Democrats were saying, they were all condemning political violence after Charlie was shot. Like like all of them, and I don't mean the leftists. Again, I'm not talking about these like the TikTok leftists. Fuck them. They're disgusting and reprehensible people. I'm talking about the Democratic leadership. The leaders of the party were all condemning what happened. All of them. We're saying this is not America. This is against our American ideals. This is not the thing that we stand for. No, we just no. Like this isn't okay. And then if you went and looked at what people on the right were saying, it was all like, "This is war. Now they're killing us for for our opinions." You know, all he did was debate college kids. You know, like none of it was like condemning political violence. All he did was debate college kids is kind of out there. It doesn't have anything to do with it, because like in my mind, that's not what like Kirk didn't debate college kids. Okay, well, it was like he literally like he went out, and he wasn't like debating it. Okay, he was basically, because he would only talk to college kids. Okay. And he wasn't really interested, like he never really was interested in debating like other like pro debaters. Okay. He was on, I mean, the whole thing was like Turning Point was on a mission. He had a mission to shift young voters to the right 10 points over 10 years. And he did it a lot faster than that. And he was doing it by basically normalizing a lot of his ideals. Through discourse. I mean, really, you could argue through kind of like hateful discourse, because he was often talking about how like trans people don't deserve rights, or people of color didn't deserve their rights. And it's just one of those things. Doesn't mean that he deserved to be shot over it at all. I just think it's really interesting whenever people will say all he did was debate college kids, when that wasn't what he was doing. He was actively pushing his idea, because he was trying to radicalize young people, you know, and kind of push them to the right, into Christian nationalist ideas. The interesting thing to me was always that's like the same shit that, because he was into college kids, that was like the same shit that he was always accusing teachers of doing, and then he was like actively doing it. But they was never debates. And the reason why you could tell it was never really like, it was rarely a debate, was usually it was him bullying a lot and changing the subject a lot if it started going down a track that made it difficult for him to defend. You wouldn't see that as much whenever, for example, if you ever go and watch his Cambridge or Oxford speeches where he does like the Q&A with students. That was where he was actually getting into debates with people that were very good at debate, and it made him not look really good. I want to reiterate that none of that means that Charlie Kirk deserved to get shot. Charlie Kirk did not deserve to get shot, and political violence is not okay. And the president of the United States needs to be the one to come out and say that we all need to come together and we need to quit killing each other, or at least more people on the right need to push back on where we're at right now, because it's really not good. Okay, so no, I was talking about this. So while some on the left have used forward force metaphors, okay, yeah. I was gonna try. That's what I was trying to find more the examples, because I actually did like a compiled examples of the split in rhetoric, where like what was it that left-leaning leaders were saying versus right-leaning leaders, both influencers and politicians, and it was like a night and day difference, where one side was condemning the violence and trying to lower the temperature, and the other side was just like not condemning the violence, but instead blaming the left and trying to raise the temperature even more, which is why like things haven't gotten better. And if we're talking about the by comparison, whenever there was violence, here we go. Open these. Nice. There's one. Okay. So if we just, we can just sit down here. These are a lot of the online influencers, and then some of these are like politicians. But because like this is a influencer, but like this is a politician, this is a politician, this is or Laura Loomer's a politician, or at least she was. I don't think she's in the administration anymore now, but she, these are people that talk to the president, or they're influencers. But the comparison is, if you look, like, this is war. The Democratic Party must be classified as a domestic terrorist. We're in Charlie Kirk getting shot in the head around the country. I'm ready for civil war. I don't want the National Guard to send. I don't want the National Guard sent anymore. I want the Air Force sent. When Democrats lose elections, they couldn't steal. They murder the people that they were unable to defeat. That they've declared war. If you saw what the president said, Trump issues a statement after Kirk's death blaming the rhetoric on the radical left. It's time for the Trump administration to shut down, defund, and prosecute every single leftist organization. Meanwhile, and most of these are politicians, but I also put like Brian Taylor Cohen in here, Project Liberal, Alex Cole, Reverend Al Sharpton. I tried to make sure that they're Republicans against Trump. This isn't even a left-leaning organization outright. This is just the Republicans against Trump. But all of this, the shooting is nothing short of horrific. I'm praying for Charlie Kirk. We don't know what motivated the person who shot or killed Charlie Kirk. At the time, we didn't. But this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy. There is no place in this country for this kind of violence. I'm deeply disturbed by the shooting. I send my prayers to Charlie Kirk and his family. Political violence has no place in America. The attack on Charlie Kirk is disgusting, vile, and reprehensible. In the United States of America, we must reject political violence. Political violence has no place in this country. I'm saddened by Charlie Kirk. Political violence has to be condemned. Horrified by the shooting. Right here, shame on anyone exploiting his tragedy before the shooter is even caught. A divided America, call for a civil war, and pretend violence only comes from the left. It is time for unity to stand against all political violence. This is the kind of rhetoric that I would have loved to see from the president, the leader of our country. That would have been really cool. We didn't get that. The Charlie Kirk shooting is beyond horrific. I deplore the shooting of Charlie Kirk and pray for his full recovery. And it says, though I disagree, and this is from Reverend Al Sharpton, though I disagree with many of his positions and policies, neither he nor anyone else should ever be wounded or killed for expressing their beliefs. Says, if you're celebrating Charlie Kirk's death on social media, you are a piece of crap. I don't care how awful you think he is. We agree that Project Liberal said, we agree with Charlie Kirk on basically nothing, except that he deserves the right, and as every human does, to speak freely without the threat of violence. And then Alex Cole says the thing that I'm talking about, which is, this is the great time for the president to turn down the rhetoric. It all starts from those in charge. All this talk of the Department of War and sending troops to American cities and spewing hate 24/7 is only making things worse. Left and right, the violence has to stop. So I just think it's very interesting whenever we talk about the rhetoric comparison. between, the leaders versus, and right now, especially right now, the leader of the country is a Republican. So maybe there should be more push on the Republican side to tone things down instead of amping things up. Let's see. Okay, good. Frequency and amplification of major media platforms. MAGA-aligned phrases and alarmist claims have been amplified repeatedly across conservative media ecosystems and large influential networks, which increases reach and repetition. Particularly, rally sound bites and presidential statements get amplified and repeated widely. Yeah, it's actually one of the things that I talked about that I find kind of interesting. Is like something happens, the president says a thing, or implies a thing, and then suddenly every single right-wing talking head is repeating said thing. And I just find it really interesting that all the deep state people will listen to what the president is saying, or along that line, and then it doesn't register in their brain that maybe all those concerns of the deep state you had before, why not look at them now, right? Maybe. Okay. Relationship to authority institutions. MAGA rhetoric often frames major institutions, courts, media, and administrative agencies as corrupt or illegitimate and therefore not worthy of deference. A delegitimizing posture that reduces institutional constraints on action. Analysts linking the delegitimizing rhetoric to increase threats against officials. This is actually the one that I find most concerning, because this is kind of the same line of logic that again, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, that the Nazis used. That the courts are illegitimate. Why should the courts decide what we do whenever they weren't elected? Okay, that's again. This is basically like in direct contention to what the Constitution says. Liberal rhetoric tends to call for institutional reform or the use of institutional levers, laws, courts, elections, and therefore frequently invokes institutional legitimacy while arguing to change outcomes. I'm not even going to add on to that. That's just true. MAGA-aligned messaging in this period more frequently promoted conspiratorial narratives, fraud, invasions, deep state plots as central facts driving urgency. Conspiratorial framing was commonly used to justify emergency measures. This is basically how Trump was able to basically say that the invasion of immigrants was a national emergency, and that's why he needed to have complete oversight over it, and why he's able to black bag people just off our streets with impunity, because it's a national emergency. So on the left, conspiratorial framing appears, okay, again, the fascist labels stuff. I hate how much it was used before. Whenever people were calling George W. Bush a fascist, what? Or they were calling it's fucking crazy to me that we basically over time, the word calling someone a fascist lost all meaning. Period. And now it means nothing now that we have an actual problem with it. That word is anytime people hear it, they're just done. They don't want to listen. They just close their ears and walk away. And I don't blame them, because for how long were people screaming, there are people that said Obama was a fascist. Get the fuck out of here, okay? But is more often a rhetorical device to argue that policies are authoritarian. Fact-based policy critique remains more common in mainstream liberal communications. Academic studies emphasize some side or both sides can rely on misinformation, but the form differs. Okay, yeah, I could agree with that, because there's a lot of facts that some liberals don't like. I think it's important that as I'm not leftist, I want to be very clear that we're not leftist here, but that as liberals, it's very important that we take the time to basically look at the facts about certain things, especially things that we don't like. Okay, super imperative. Emotional appeals, fear versus moral urgency. MAGA messages heavily rely on fear and grievance, threats of livelihoods, public safety, cultural survival to mobilize supporters. So true. This produces high arousal reactions like anger and suspicion. Yeah, thousandfold. Okay. Liberal messages more often use appeals to empathy, moral duty, or future consequences, climate harms, inequality, producing a mix of sadness, moral outrage, and calls for collective action. You know, it used to be that you know that liberals were better at organizing, and it seems like now, especially because of the division in the party between liberals and leftists, like that's not happening anymore. And it's one of the reasons. It's actually one of the strong reasons why I think the right is doing so well, is because they're able to kind of coalesce around Trump and around Trump's rhetoric, and that like lets them, you know, be more cohesive. Acceptance and defense of harsher enforcement. MAGA rhetoric in the period showed, we can look up there, in the period, repeated endorsement or defense of tougher law enforcement or extrajudicial sounding remedies, deportations, mass prosecutions, quote unquote crackdowns, and less emphasis on civil liberties trade-offs, or civil liberties trade-offs. Commentators flagged how such language can invite threats against officials who disagree. Liberal rhetoric often foregrounds civil liberties, due process concerns, and skepticism of heavy-handed enforcement. Though there are exceptions in activist circles calling for confrontational tactics against specific targets. This part is, again, one of the reasons why we need to kick leftists out of the party. I don't care. That's not a popular opinion. I don't care. It's painfully obvious to me that leftists within our party cannot be satisfied. Regardless, they want what they want, and they don't want to work together to accomplish it. And I just that needs to enter into the realm of unacceptable. We're not doing that. Okay, we need to if we're gonna fix this country, then we need to move back into like liberal ideas and away from harsh leftist ideas, because we can reach a very highly successful functioning society without going full socialist. Okay, like it or not, capitalism is so far one of the best forms that we've got. And if we regulate it and we use the financial gains that we can accomplish from it to turn around and create strong social programs, then we could be a more successful nation without completely capsizing the way that we function. So, by contrast, so Tomar, elite liberal figures, party leaders, institutional heads, mainstream journalists leaned toward measured denunciations of violence and policy-oriented criticism. By contrast, elite MAGA figures and some conservative media personalities use combative emergency framing language that sometimes edged into hostile or punitive rhetoric. Independent analysis and polling see this pattern reflected in threat counts and public attitudes. So that's kind of the thing that I was showing earlier. If you go and look at the way that like MAGA responded versus the way that, you know, the more liberal media responded, it's like a night and day. And I'm not giving credence to the crazy leftists because they deserve no credence. So I guess that's kind of the bulk of everything I want to talk about today. As always, make sure we thank my production person, mom. She helps me. We talk all the time. I'm constantly reading, following. Not just on social media, but I'm reading articles. I am watching what people say on social media, and then that drives me to read articles. I watch a lot of political commentators online. Just kind of overall, it's just, it's how our week goes. And so she's been helping me with kind of the production side, where I like to come up with the talking point, because it's, something that I'm probably already on. And excuse me. And she just kind of helps me organize it all together, so that way I have really good notes. And yeah, it's gonna be a lot of me like reading the notes and then just commentating back out what my opinion is about the notes. But that's why I need them, because they're super helpful. Just like legitimately. So anyway, I want to make sure. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure. Okay. I want to make sure that I hit on all of the points. So first and foremost, action items. Right now, there needs to be, I guess, like more there needs to be more pushback on our representatives. Excuse me, especially in Congress. With what's coming up in Portland, I'm hoping that it amounts to a nothing burger. Truthfully, that would be great. I'm hoping that what we get in Portland is like what we got in DC, like what we got in LA, that it's like a nothing burger. It's local law enforcement, it's ICE doing what ICE has been doing. And the military is there for logistics support, which is within the legal confines of their action. Trump loves to say that he's going to send in the military to clean things up, but that's just the forced politicization of the military. The military has not actually been involved in any of the law enforcement measures that we've seen so far. They've been providing logistics support to ICE because ICE is the entity that the president can legally use to do the things that he's doing. And the military is being used as a political tool to intimidate people, and to politicize the military. But the military has not been doing law enforcement because it's against the law. They've been providing logistics, while ICE does all of the law enforcement. So it's disgusting. It's reprehensible. Him saying that we're going to send the military into Oregon and they're going to have full or authorization of full force is bullshit and nonsensical, and it's a disgusting thing for the president to say, and he shouldn't have fucking said it. So that being said, what can you do about it? You can call your representatives, and the way that you can do that, and just so we're clear, I'm not sponsored by them, you can use the 5Call apps, or a 5Calls app. 5Calls is an easy app on your phone that literally puts you in contact with your representative directly. It goes another step. It goes like kind of a step further. I don't know if you can see this. Again, I don't know how bright. Yeah, it's too bright. Oh well. So like on here, I got 5Calls. It says like stop the Trump administration from eliminating the Chemical Safety Board, restore CFPB funding to protect consumers from Trump's tariffs, oppose the blank check to federal budget deal. Attend this is like if your people aren't doing town halls, but they're going to be in recess in September, so you could call them. I mean, we're in September. I guess we're almost in October, so we're past that one. Stop the assault on freedom of speech. That one's probably really good right now. But anything that you could think of, and then it gives you like a nice little like breakdown, and it gives you I don't know if you can see it, but it like gives you your representatives, who they are, and then if you tap on them, it gives you like their phone number, and then it gives you like a little script that you can read. Okay. And then you can just say you made contact or whatever. And then one thing it says in here, and this is really, really important if you use this, if you leave a voicemail, okay, the office to your representatives, Congress are open from 7 to 7. If you call and nobody, and in between those times, you'll get a voicemail. If you go to voicemail, you have to leave your full street address to ensure that your call is tallied. The thing about calls is when you call, they have to record it. They have to document that you called. So you can call and you can say like, yo, what the hell? Why is the president doing this thing? Because we've got to start holding our elected representatives accountable. And I hope anybody watching, I hope you live in a place where they care about your values. Because I think that would be, I think that's way better than what I got. Because I call that guy and I get like a letter in the mail. It's like, I appreciate your call, but like he and I are not like politically aligned at all. So but I still call him, and I think you should. I think it's really important for you to hold hold them accountable. Okay. If you want to get involved in protesting, just remember, there is 5051 is a great resource for that, as well as Indivisible. Both of those are websites that you can check out that are basically about. Here, I'll actually just show you. Probably easier that I show you. No, wrong one. Politics. Let's switch back over to the Okay. So 5051 is like what it looks like. 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. This is, you can find ones that are near you. You can talk about digital safety and marching 101, and this is just ways for you to get involved if you want to go protest. And then Indivisible is the same way, where it gives you basically like a tons of ways that you can engage in protesting. Both, excuse me, both are really, really good. If that's what you want to do. Okay. What else do we got? Oh, card campaign. So this is the card campaign website. You can literally just print cards. So you can come with 2025 cards, and you can see where it talks about all kinds of different things. You can come on here, you click on them, you print them out. You can leave them. I've already said that probably some of the, some people suggest that you leave them like for waiters. I know that if I was a waiter, I would just throw it away. So that's probably not the best place to leave it. But there's other great places, because you can always leave it. Like if you go to get your brakes changed, you could leave it there. If you go to a doctor's office, you could leave it there, just for people to kind of find. And then they're sitting there and they're like, oh, what's this? And they read it, and then they could, you could be passing along some valuable information to some people. So something to check out. Again, this is the website is CC for Democracy. Like CC, the number 4 democracy, those card campaign, again, the 50-50 protest, and Indivisible. There was another one. I'm going to blank on it. Where is it? Because there was another one that I talked about with Mom. I got to figure that out. And I always forget, because it's like a new one that we just found, and I'm gonna have to go find it again. But there's it's gonna bother me. I need to bookmark it. That's the real solution. All right, I'll have to find it and make sure it is at least in the description. So yeah, those are just all the ways that you can get more involved than you probably currently are. And if you are involved, great. And then above all else, okay, and this part's really important, above all else, you can always get involved in your local community. Some people, they don't want to get involved on this national scale of things, and I get it, okay? The national scale is crazy. And it invokes a lot of people, and it invokes a lot of violence, and it invokes a lot of bad feelings. And maybe you don't agree with what I'm talking about here on the podcast, and that's fine too. Whenever you get involved locally, though, then you're getting involved with your community. And I think it's really important that you do get involved with your community, because, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Because these are the people that you live with, that you see every day, that these are your neighbors. So getting involved with them, there's going to be no better security in your livelihood in the future than getting involved with your neighbors, because whenever shit hits the fan, those are the people that you're going to have. You're going to have the people that are to your left and right. Those are the people that are going to be with you. So I highly, highly, highly encourage, that you get more involved in your local community. You get more involved in your local elections. All that stuff is kind of the real path forward in terms of if you want to see immediate change in your life. Because those are the people that are going to be helping you. So I guess that's it. Thanks for hanging out. I'm glad I got to talk about this today. It's been something that's on my mind for a while. I am going to try and start probably spending some time during the week to get on and talk about the world politics, especially with how crazy things are right now, because things are fucking wild. So anyways, I will catch you later. And sorry, I'm distracted. I'll catch you later. Thank you so much, and be safe out there. Stay hopeful.